We are so excited to have one of our innovators with us today, and that's Reva McPollom, who is the founder and CEO of Lessonbee. And let me tell you a little bit about Reva and also Lessonbee. An ed-tech startup transforming health education and social-emotional learning, and backed by leading social impact investors, including Camelback Ventures and Draper Richards Kaplan Foundation. Reva began her career as a news writer and a trade reporter for Gannett Company, Mobile Marketer, and the Star Ledger. And as the print news industry struggled with the rise of blogging and social media, Reva pivoted to software systems engineering and digital marketing before transitioning to instructional technology. In 2009, she established the e-learning consultancy Reva Digital Media LLC in 2011, of which she is the president and principal. After consulting in K-12 higher ed and workplace learning for 7 years with Reva Digital and becoming a first-time mom, Reva established Lessonbee in 2018 to ensure that every child has comprehensive health education that builds confidence and connection. In 2020, Reva was named one of the 100 most influential African Americans by The Root for developing an innovative platform that makes coming of age less confusing. Reva holds a master's degree in instructional technology and media from Columbia University and a bachelor's degree in journalism and media studies from Rutgers University. Reva, thank you so much for being on the show this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So let's get right into it, because we're so excited about Lessonbee and the services that they provide. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with the concept and the idea and what it takes to grow the company.
Sure. So Lessonbee is an educational technology company, and we're focused on youth health and well-being. Our product is culturally competent health education and social-emotional learning as a platform with self-paced content and activities that increase health literacy and social-emotional wellness. Social-emotional wellness or social-emotional learning is kind of the parlance today for health education. But when people say that, they're more specifically talking about mental health, I find. And we take a little bit of a different approach to that. We're a crosswalk of health education and social-emotional learning. We're combining that standards-aligned health content with social-emotional learning activities and then other online interactive opportunities for young people to learn, wellness check-ins, all of this to create a more holistic solution because there's mental health, which is very important, and physical health, which is what a lot of health education focuses on, but there's so many dimensions of health, and in order to address, the needs of the whole child and really provide something that can promote health and wellness for the students, for the teachers, for families and communities, that's the outcome that we're driving toward. And, I got into this because that in and of itself is just big enough and meaty enough for me to sink my teeth into, essentially. When I think about all the things that I've ever felt powerless to address, whether that's fires in California, environmental degradation, even, racism and the lack of empathy, all these things to me just kind of come back to our values with respect to health.
Our guest this afternoon is Reva McPollom, who is the founder and CEO of Lessonbee, one of the innovators in the BCW's Innovation Win program. The concept of and the services that you want to deliver, you're spot on. It's so important, especially for children and families who might be having numerous challenges and crises that they're having to go through. How were you able to take your experiences in educational technology and really drill it down so that you could develop something that families could say, you know what, this really can change our lives if we participate in a Lessonbee's program?
Well, I think part of it is, like you mentioned, I started out my career in journalism. I graduated from Rutgers with a bachelor's degree in journalism and 3 years of experience under my belt. The only thing I was willing to do was write, and when I graduated, I was ready to conquer the world. I thought that was going to be it, but I graduated right at the time when social media, blogging were just transforming everything, transforming how we consume content. And so I had to pivot. I had to ramp up on some self-taught skills, I was always interested in digital media, so I went in that direction, and I spent some time as an engineer, as a digital marketer, as a web designer, and so I developed a really multidisciplinary background. And I tend to hunt for unicorns like myself who have that multidisciplinary background. And then when I was a kid, I struggled a lot to feel healthy in and out of school. I struggled to feel connected. I struggled with self-esteem and anxiety. And so I have a very sort of anchored personal connection to the work that we're doing, and I also look for that in people that join the company. So we have really very talented people that understand education, but also understand how to create media in a way that's authentically engaging for young people and for all audiences, and then just bring that sort of personal commitment to the work that I think just makes the content experience so authentically engaging and relatable for people. So that's like the number one hook for families, for parents. You want to connect with your kids. You want to engage them around building health knowledge and skills and making healthy choices. And Lessonbee allows you to do that. It allows you to feel comfortable and feel confident bringing up the conversation, the health conversation, the sex conversation, the mental health conversation, all these talks that we want to have with our kids. And Lessonbee creates a more effective environment in which to do that.
Our guest this afternoon is Reva McPollom, who is the founder and CEO of Lessonbee, one of the innovators in the BCW's WIN program. Can we just get a little roadmap of how the onboarding process starts for folks who might want to use Lessonbee?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. I mean, we're B2B and B2C. So we're selling to schools and districts, but families, even youth can also sign up directly via the platform. If you're underage, you have to have a parent to sort of authorize your access, but it can be a very self-paced learning experience for a kid who is on the platform and learning independently. It can be that kind of over-the-shoulder experience of having your child go through the platform while you're there to answer questions, just to be a supportive participant in the learning experience. Or it can be a teacher-led experience in a school or district. But the point is that the whole thing is online. So all you have to do is go to lessonbee.com, that's LESSONBEE.com, and sign up. And,
obviously in the brief time we've spent together today on the show, you've talked about some of the areas that Lessonbee, the services that they provide. And everything from, education to mental health. What are some of the challenges that Lessonbee is seeing with their clients that families, no matter where they're from, are probably experiencing as we've gone through this pandemic?
Yeah, there are so many different challenges. I mean, just the transition to working remotely, for example. And, I think most people recognize that employers are doing their best to provide resources around mental health, but there's this nuance now to where that work is happening and what that environment looks like. So if you're getting support from your employer, for example, in the workplace is now at home. You might be working alongside your kids. So how do you make that overall environment healthier? And that's kind of the sweet spot where Lessonbee comes into play. And we're experiencing all kinds of traumatic events that young people are dealing with. I think the sort of connective tissue in all of it is just the inconsistency and the unpredictability. That's created so much anxiety, so much uncertainty. And no one was ready for it. And this whole shift to online learning, teachers weren't ready for it, the students weren't ready for it. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges that we're trying to address is ensuring that young people have access to a learning experience that meets them where they're at, that can help them build capacity, that doesn't make the parent or the educator the gatekeeper to that experience. So no matter what the adults in the room are doing or in your life are doing, you still can have direct access to something that's going to help you develop capacity and knowledge and skills to independently manage and nurture your health.
And I'm curious, obviously if you're working with young people, on some of the education challenges that they're having, and now they're engaged with your team at Lessonbee. Is there a connection that the Lessonbee team then goes back to the parents and to the child's school to say, hey, look, we're working with this child, and we see some things that really we want to make sure we're all on the same page on, to make sure that we're giving them that successful pathway?
Yeah, that's a really great question, in particular in this space. So in the social emotional learning space, one thing that I have recognized in the past year is that a lot of the solutions in this space are focused on either treatment and counseling or monitoring and surveilling of kids. And the monitoring and surveilling piece isn't necessarily the best way to build trust with students, to build trust with families, to build trust in communities. So it's become very interesting to me that these types of technologies are coming kind of to the forefront of what SEL is. And then on the other hand, in the SEL space, there's a lot of curriculum that's just reinforcing of white dominant cultural practices. So it's very prescriptive, it's not inclusive, it doesn't reflect, diversity in terms of how people experience or communicate their thoughts and emotions. And so these are the gaps that we're filling with a solution that's holistic. So is there an assessment component to it? Yes, there is. There is an assessment in terms of assessing knowledge and skills. And then we also have wellness check-ins, to your point, so that you can keep a pulse on how kids are feeling and what they might need. But it's within a context that's learner-centered. And what that does is it creates more authentic, more honest assessment, because they know that when they engage with check-ins, it's all a part of their own personal development. It's not about like Big Brother checking in on you and monitoring you. And at the same time, they're able to rate themselves. So we're introducing ipsative assessment in health education, which has never been done before. What I mean by that is, if you're in 6th grade, you can see how you're at health-wise versus where you're at when you're in 9th grade. That kind of stuff exists for math and exists for ELA, for example, but it's never been done before for health education. And I think that's truly transformative, giving young people the ability to actually self-assess and measure how they're moving the needle on their own health, while at the same time empowering schools and districts to understand how kids are feeling in an authentic way. And there's a parent dashboard, so parents can see exactly what their kids are learning. They can even opt them out if there's something that they don't want them to see.
Well, yeah. So, I think that's also such an important point, that you've created this platform where it's inclusive, and it's also obviously there's confidentiality that's so important, and that parents can play an active role in seeing the work that's being done, and hopefully play a positive role in working with you and your team. This is Jon Ravitz, the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer for the Business Council of Westchester. To learn more about how the BCW can help your business, please go to our website, which is www.thebcw.org, and our phone number is 914-948-2110. Our guest this afternoon is Reva McPollom, who is the founder and CEO of Lessonbee, one of the innovators in the BCW's innovation program called WIN, in which we have really brought innovators from all over the country and the world to Westchester County to partner with an existing business or organization to build on the creativity that these innovators have created. And Reva, I know that you are working with the Municipal Housing Authority of Yonkers, and Wilson Kimball, who is the leader of that organization, is also on our board of directors, and we're so excited for the work that she's doing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're hoping Lessonbee and Macy can do together?
Absolutely. It's a very exciting partnership for us. One reason being, I've always known from the beginning that there's just limited time in the curriculum for health education. So even in the best implementation, young people aren't going to get the amount of health education or social emotional skill development in a regular school day. And so that's why we're both B2B and B2C, because we want this to be, really like a lifestyle experience where young people can spend as much time developing health knowledge and skills as they do on core academic subjects. And so that's why having partnerships that sit outside of K-12 are really important to us. And also from an equity perspective, ensuring that we're reaching every child possible, essentially. So we're excited to partner up. We're going to be implementing starting this summer. We're going to be working with the folks that are hands-on with the youth to help them with capacity building around, the subject matter as well. But for us, it's really about looking at social determinants of health and taking that seriously. I think a lot of people understand that healthy students behave better, perform better academically. Like research shows you that, but your common sense tells you that. We all understand that health and education, and workforce, development, these are things that are critically important in terms of social determinants of health. So how can we connect all of those things together in a meaningful way so that we can actually start to assess the impact of health education on those outcomes? And again, partnerships with the Municipal Housing Authority of Yonkers, hospitals, and health systems, these are all part of our strategy to do that.
Well, and again, you're providing a service that hopefully people will want to take advantage of because there are gaps in what they're seeing. Are you finding, one of the challenges that you and your team have to face, are you finding that there's still some families that just are in denial, that, they feel that, my kid's going to either outgrow this issue or my sister's not going to, eventually this, she'll turn it in a different direction? How do you chip away at denial to get people to understand that, they do need the help and that the help is there?
That's a great question. I'll be honest, I don't spend a lot of my time personally trying to chip away at others' denial, but what I do think about is data, and I think that data is compelling. And I think about marketplace dynamics as well. And so, what we're looking at is getting to a place where the data is obvious and apparent and accessible to all who want access to it around the outcomes that young people achieve with Lessonbee, so that parents can make informed decisions. A lot of what has happened historically in health education in the United States has been ideologically driven. Health education has never been an innovation-driven business, and we're looking to change that. So I think that there are certainly the parents who assume that it's all well in hand with the school and district. Mm-hmm. There are parents who don't want the school and district to do anything. There are parents that are all about comprehensive health education, sexuality education, and frankly, that's a majority of parents today. And there are those that are not. We want to meet everyone where they're at, and we have a solution that's really flexible and adaptable. For example, on our platform, you can bring your own materials. So if you wanted to mix and match our content with your own curriculum or artifacts that you've found online, you can do that. So you can totally customize the experience. But we're always going to give you content that's comprehensive, culturally responsive, and medically accurate. And we're focused, again, on collecting the data to demonstrate the efficacy of the outcomes.
Well, again, it's creating a solution and hopefully a pathway for individuals and families using technology, which people have to understand, can be really a proactive and play a proactive, positive role in a daily life. We want to make sure you give us the website and the phone number again so people can learn more about Lessonbee.
Absolutely. It's lessonbee.com. That's LESSONBEE.com. And you can call us at 646-582-2040.
I only have time for two more questions. It's going too quickly. But again, when we read your bio to our audience, you really made a career shift from being a reporter to now really being a leader in education technology. And it all came from, obviously, a passion that you have. If you were sitting in front of a group of innovators, people who really want to be able to do what you've been able to accomplish, what are some of the key foundation lessons that you would want to give them?
Oh, that's a great question. So it hasn't been a straight line for me, and I think that's a good thing. trying different things and having exposure to different disciplines gives you flexibility to find out what really inspires you and motivates you, and gives you the flexibility to stop doing stuff when it no longer serves those purposes. And I think that that's important. I mean, we live in a world today. There's the gig economy. You can do anything digitally. There's hybrid work or exclusively remote work, and all of these trends are going to continue to move in that direction. And I think two things are really important. One is having skills and being adaptable, meaning that you can work in different domains. And then it's about sort of the more softer side of the equation, like your values, your communication skills, your appreciation for diversity, all of that kind of stuff that maybe falls under soft skills, how you collaborate, etc., being self-directed. And you learn that by trying different things and being adaptable. So what I would say is be open-minded as you're on your path. It's also about your networks and about your relationships, and that's something that I learned later in my career. I thought it was all about just being the smartest person in the room and just having the skills, and it certainly is not, especially as you grow in your career. It's about relationships. It's about taking on every project and putting your best foot forward. And I think that I want to encourage everyone to do work that matters. There are so many important problems to be solved, and if you're a smart person and you've got skills, there's always going to be the lure of just joining an organization where you could be a cog in a wheel and earn a big salary. I would encourage you, if you are an exceptional human being, to do work that matters.
Well, I think that is such an important message. Our guest this afternoon has been Reva McPollom, who is the founder and CEO of Lessonbee, one of the innovators that are part of the Business Council of Westchester's WIN program, bringing innovators from all over the world to Westchester County, as Westchester County will be known as the innovation capital of the United States. Reva, thank you so much. Thank you for the work you and your team do, and we look forward to hearing more about the success of Lessonbee in the years to come.